is just fantastic.
Hello everyone, welcome to the exhibition of stupid people. My voice may sound a little off still, I do apologise, but things are improving. That's a good sign, right? Today we're going to start with the hashtag #IStandWithGina Carano. The reason why is because Gina Carano has tweeted out, quite a lengthy tweet, concerning the consequences that she experienced at the hands of Lucasfilm and Disney and what she intends to do next. Today is an important day for me. I am filing a lawsuit against Lucasfilm and Disney after my 20 years of building a career from scratch, and during the regime of former Disney CEO Bob Chapek. Lucasfilm made this statement on Twitter terminating me from The Mandalorian. Quote, Gina Carano is not currently employed by Lucasfilm and there are no plans for her to be in the future. Nevertheless, her social media posts denigrating people based on their cultural and religious identities are abhorrent and unacceptable, end quote. Nothing could be further from the truth. The truth is, I was being hunted down from everything I posted to every post I liked because I was not in line with the acceptable narrative of the time. My words were consistently twisted to demonize and dehumanize me as an alt-right wing extremist. It was a bullying smear campaign aimed at silencing and destroying and making examples out of me. The thing is, I never even used aggressive language. I shared thought-provoking quotes, pictures and memes, and occasionally I used my own words. Not with aggression, but with respect and the occasional comedy to keep the mood light in dark times. Look with your own eyes at what I posted and ask yourself, for example, where did I compare Republicans to the Jewish people in the Holocaust? I didn't. Ask yourself why they were calling me a racist. Was there any merit behind that or history of it whatsoever? No. Look at why I was called a transphobe for making droid noises from Star Wars. Beep Bop Boop was occasionally directed to the online bullies and did not in any way denigrate transgender people. Were my questions about masks, lockdowns and forced vaccines okay to ask and push the subject into the light? Should we have been allowed to publicly discuss those topics at that time without being harassed or censored? Absolutely. Hollywood says they support female representation and equal rights. Why then were my male co-stars permitted to speak without harassment and re-education courses or termination, but I was not afforded the same right to exercise my freedom of speech? Artists do not sign away our rights as American citizens when we enter into employment. I have spoken to all my co-stars since I was fired, and there is nothing but care and kind words between us. I respect their right to free speech, and do not have to think the same on every issue to be their friends and work with them, and I know they feel the same towards me. A couple months ago, Elon Musk tweeted that if you had been fired from using the platform X for exercising your right to free speech, he would like to offer these people legal representation. Quite the noble offer, but never in my wildest dreams would I have thought anyone would take on my case against Lucasfilm and Disney. Still, I did respond back, I think I qualify, and thousands of people agree, but I did not expect anything. To my surprise, a few months ago I received an email from a lawyer who had been hired by X to look into my story and many others. Turns out, sending them as much information as I could gather these past few months, my now lawyers and X believe wholeheartedly in my case and are moving forward. I would like to express my deepest gratitude and thank you to Elon Musk and X for giving me an opportunity to bring my case to light. As for me, I would love to pick up where I left off and continue my journey of creating and participating in storytelling, which is my utmost passion and everything I worked so hard for. It has been difficult to move forward with the lies and labels stuck on me, backed and encouraged by the most powerful entertainment company in the world. I am grateful someone has come to my defense in such a powerful way and look forward to clearing my name. Blah 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 blah, God bless us and all that nonsense. The accusation back in 2021 was that Gina Carano was falsely equating the suffering of Jewish people during the time of the Nazi rule to that of those for having differing political views. This was done via Instagram in a post that read, Jews were beaten in the streets not by Nazi soldiers but by their neighbours, even by children. Because history is edited, most people today don't realise that to get to the point where Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, the government first made their own neighbours hate them simply for being Jews. How is that any different from hating someone for their political views? Fire Gina Carano then started trending on Twitter. The accusation of transphobia was because she had changed her pronouns to beep, bop and boot, a light-hearted way of mocking those who go to extreme lengths to have very eclectic pronouns, or ones that change on a daily basis. Gina herself said, "I'm not against trans lives at all, they just need to find less aggressive representation." Gina was dropped from The Mandalorian, she was dropped from her agency, she has been excommunicated essentially from the entertainment industry. Now that the political window is shifting again on social media, as it often does like a cycle, Gina is getting her voice back to her. She is accused of being anti-Semitic, transphobic, a COVID denier and a racist. These are, in the entertainment industry, very thought-terminating. They are very much haram. They are the buzzwords that kill a career, because there's no optics where you can undo it, unless she suddenly settles down with somebody who is the absolute opposite of all 4 of those labels. So a Jewish, trans, COVID vaccine that is of another race. Yeah. But even then, she'd be considered virtue signaling or a white savior. It should be pointed out, Pedro Pascal, the lead for The Mandalorian, has himself tweeted some very politically divisive opinions and never gotten any blowback for it, because he's always been very anti-Republican. And so because he can push that, yes, he's able to get around getting out of or getting into any unnecessary trouble. The I Stand with Gina Carano hashtag has garnered a considerable amount of attention and has led to others suggesting that perhaps Elon Musk buy Disney to fix it. And to be honest, that invigorated Elon Musk to be more active in his criticisms of Disney, because they're thinking of replacing Johnny Depp in the Pirates of the Caribbean series with another actor, but also because they have inclusion standards, and he was censored. And it's also something we're now going to look at, because Jesus Christ, what is wrong with you, Disney? In 2021, when Gina Carano was essentially cancelled, hate that term if you like, I don't care, she was, many boycotted Disney. Over the years, Disney keep on doing things to get boycotted, and it does cost them, but they keep on doing it, they keep on pushing, because they have the disposable income to continue to make poor decisions, and because they can make phenomenal amounts of money with merch. Which is understandable, Star Wars did it for a long time, but they approached things back then as a less is more, massively. So much less is more, that eventually the prequel trilogy was semi-liked. Elon Musk was sent all 9 pages of what you see on the screen, and he has tweeted all 9 pages of it out. We're going to go through this part. Standard A, on-screen representation. At least 3 of the following 5 areas need to be met to fulfill Standard A. Characters. 50% or more of regular and recurring written characters come from underrepresented groups. I assume in the near future this will then become white men, and in which case it will be ignored. Actors, 50% or more, come from underrepresented groups. Secondary characters, meaningful inclusion of underrepresented groups as secondary or more minor on-screen individuals, including background actors. Series premise, meaningful integration of underrepresented groups in overall themes and narratives. Episodic storytelling, ongoing meaningful integration of underrepresented groups in episodic themes and narratives. This is where many people get quite irritated, because there's the argument of what is called the ginger side, the constant race switching of characters from canon. It angers a lot of people. Things like this tokenize other people by saying, because of your skin you have to be included, and now we have to make that a part of the story as well. Not all stories need to be about things like that, and it can be seen to be trivializing. Standard B, creative leadership. At least 3 of these 6 need to be met to fulfill it. The first, 50% or more of producer and above on writing staff and 50% or more of co-producer and below on writing staff come from underrepresented groups. I like that your version of equality is a version where every racial demographic is equally represented. But if you were to actually look at racial representation in nations and your demographics, you'd realize your core audience would change this massively. 2. 50% or more of episodic directors come from the underrepresented groups. Because in the context of a TV show, what you really need is a director from a different racial demographic, because that changes everything. In before one pedantic twat does it, don't bother, I know who you are, resist the urge, and stop it. 3. Casting director is from an underrepresented group or has not previously worked on a DGE show in this role. I would say, if that is your mentality going into shows and wanting them to be successful, you really are latching onto the idea that your engine is unstoppable and that you can take those risks. 4. Meaningful representation of underrepresented groups in senior creative leadership. Define meaningful, because that is nebulous. 5. Promotion of a member of an underrepresented group into a role that constitutes career progression for at least one member of the writing staff. You realise though by doing that, you are now taking meritocratic aspects out of the employment field and saying your skin colour or your underrepresented aspect, your gender, basically anything that's not straight, white and male, will be the defining characteristic that gets you elevated as opposed to your talent, or it could be your talent, but that will be how it's fobbed off. Final one, substantial year-over-year increase in members of underrepresented groups as directors and in writing staff. Now I want to also point out a glaring gap hole here. Yeah, it's an obvious one. If you are working on these shows, these inclusion standards for shows, how do you define underrepresented? If your push is for 50% of everything, you're going to end up with a creative team that'll either be too big because of too many different groups, or you'll have one person that represents each and every single demographic you could possibly get your hands on, or you will end up discriminating against others under the guise of Oppression Olympics to suit narrative. C. At least 2 of the 5 need to be fulfilled for standard C. 1. 50% or more of line producer and or production department heads come from underrepresented groups. 50% or more other key roles come from underrepresented groups. 50% or more of the overall crew or project staff come from underrepresented groups. Promotion of, and it's the same as B5. C5, hiring a line producer and or production department head who has not previously been employed in that role on a DGE show. Again, another punt taken as opposed to going for experience. This speaks volumes about the level of what you consider more important. Representation over professionalism or security. Again, that arrogance. To allow you to be able to do that, people need to start buying hard media again and stop enabling this shit. Alright? The final one, D. 3 of these 6 need to be met. Industry, access and career development. At the bottom though, before we get to that, context is critical when evaluating if a group is underrepresented. Anyone involved in hiring decisions is prohibited from asking candidates and talents about their actual or perceived race, religion, colour, sex orientation, gender, gender identity, military or veteran status, age, disability or any other legally protected category. That is based on employment law because you're not allowed to discriminate against any of them. But you're above standards, do the very thing that you claim to not want to do because it would risk you getting into legal trouble. Anyone involved in hiring decisions is prohibited from asking the candidates about it, but you're more than happy to employ it anyway. I want to say this is a Mickey Mouse circus because it seems so appropriate that Disney would be willing to do this. If you're already basing your rules, your inclusion standards on discriminating against people in the first place, then by definition, your context being critical is redundant. Because you can claim to not want people to ask about it, but it doesn't matter, does it? You are still doing it the moment the candidate has left the room. The last one is, again, about 50% or more inclusivity. Now, the 50% or more, the more part, is vitally important as well. This is discrimination, given inclusion as its buzzy buzzword to protect it. Inclusion is meritocratic. That's inclusion. If you end up with a field that is mostly white, that's not a bad thing or a good thing, unless you are trying to solely virtue signal to cover race quotas. You've had that in the past and it tokenized so many people. Wasn't that just called affirmative action? I'm glad I don't use Disney's products. I don't use Disney Plus. I don't buy Disney shit. I don't watch Star Wars. I'm glad I don't, because then I don't have to say I'd boycott it. I'm not involved in it in the first place. And I would certainly never want to work for a place like Disney when they base their standards on this, whilst claiming at the bottom they don't do it, but actually do at the same time say it. Because they're not allowed to ask the candidates, remember? No. Honourable mention to Rishi Sunak, the United Kingdom Prime Minister, who made a £1,000 bet with Piers Morgan. Rishi Sunak believes he is conveying his absolute commitment to a policy with this bet. The policy is the Rwanda deportation policy. It is claimed that the bet will go to charity, and the entire point of the bet was to address the increased cost of living crisis. Rishi Sunak believes that the deportation part of the Rwanda bill will reduce the cost of living problem we are experiencing in this country. Currently, there are payments being doled out based on means-assessed benefits up to £900 to a number of millions of households. Congratulations if you get it, no doubt you can buy yourself some more bog roll from TikTok shop. Rishi Sunak has been dubbed out of touch though for making such a bet at the cost of many people. I thought I'd highlight it because it tickled me to no end that he had the balls to even shake Piers Morgan's hands over something like that in the first place. We do know though that the bill currently is having issues with the House of Lords, who, while out of touch, do love to poke holes at literally anything sent to them, which is in effect hardly a surprise. They are, after all, a room of rather wealthy, unelected morons that think they can speak for the rest of us as moral arbiters, when most of them are absolutely morally bankrupt. I'm going to finish by talking about Roman Reigns, Dwayne Johnson, and Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes is one of a very few number of wrestlers who've won back-to-back Royal Rumbles. This year he won like last year. Last year though he was unsuccessful in his challenge to Roman Reigns. Now yes, all predetermined, we knew the story would continue. This year Cody Rhodes won, but at the same time Vince McMahon had to step down because he was embroiled in a rather nasty trafficking related accusation, and that is ongoing. We're not going to comment on that. But a lot of attention does fall at the feet of WWE because of it. So what do they do to rectify it? Well, Dwayne Johnson was installed as a board member and given back The Rock as his property. A condition for him to become a part of the board with TKO, the parent company of WWE, was that he would get a match against Roman Reigns. And it's mentioned in many articles, his cousin. Just an FYI, they are not cousins. Okay? They are not related at all. They're really not. Part of the same family, blood brothers at best. Nothing more than that. There is no connection. He is related by blood to Nia Jax. That's his cousin, by the way, who he'd probably put on a better match with. Now, upon Cody winning, we all knew he was going to go for Roman to finish the story. With him being victorious this year, that would actually do the job. Roman can then brag he's one of the longest reigning champions in history, and the rest of us just laugh and say, you're so shit, a second title had to be created because of your contract and your schedule being embarrassing. To the point we got regurgitated Brock Lesnar for several years with you to get the final win over him. It was very similar to me, like Roger Federer winning Wimbledon so many times and Nadal trying over and over and then eventually beating him. It was it wasn't a great moment to twat actually. Hell, that was so pointless. You had to have Seth Rollins do one of the greatest cash-ins ever, which, I'll be honest, was also a bit, his reign was also undermined, wasn't it? But Cody Rhodes was meant to be fighting, contesting, beating up Roman Reigns. Finally, we're going to get that, and totally no more dirty finishes on the Reigns side that also made him look weak. Like his really crap spear. Not a joke. How can you be so bad at it? Rhino does it best. Cody Rhodes, though, has stepped aside to give Dwayne Johnson, a man in his 50s, that contest, because that's totally going to make Roman Reigns look better, isn't it? It's going to make Roman Reigns look like the top dog, the big dog, the tribal chief, right? That's it, right? Yeah, okay, totally that. What you want is a guy jacked up on roids. I mean, clean as a cucumber. Totally on roids. Against a guy who, to look big, had to wear armor because of how pathetically meek his frame was. Who also only has, like Dwayne Johnson, 5 moves. And Dwayne Johnson himself is being booed with Rocky Sucks chants that we haven't heard since the late 90s. WWE are so desperate to take attention away from the Vince McMahon, John Laurinaitis, and other names, including Brock, I think, as well mentioned, scandal, that they'd use Dwayne Johnson to do it because then they're fulfilling their end of the bargain, or TKO are, by giving Dwayne his shot at Roman. But we all know Dwayne doesn't beat Roman in this context. Roman thinks himself a big, strong, tough guy. He's not. Legit, when he finally beat Brock Lesnar, I couldn't cringe or roll my eyes anymore because Brock has a proven record of kicking ass and taking names. Or taking ass and kicking names. Whichever you prefer, really. Cody has earned the right for this. A spanner in the works is that CM Punk was obviously injured at the Royal Rumble, and so I don't understand what this point is, this story they're now trying to give us, considering how hot Cody Rhodes is. If the push would be to give us this in SummerSlam, instead, I would see this as wasted, because the biggest stage and the best stage is WrestleMania. To dethrone Roman and finally have him go down the pecking order ever so slightly, or just do what I fully expect you to do, have Cody beat Roman eventually, and for them to him lose it at the very next pay-per-view against Roman and never see that title again, break Cody down and bring back Stardust. If you'd like me to rant more about the ineptitude of WWE at present, let me know in the comments. I could do it all day. Dwayne is too old to be doing this, and he has the stamina. He has all the stamina of a just-born toddler trying to stand up. He is pathetic. He needs more rest breaks than a fat kid doing a bleep test. The only time I've seen him commit to something with energy is when he's eating pizza or sushi, and he takes no breaks for that. I should of course insert the disclaimer because somebody's going to point out in the comments, yes, thank you for that. Yes, Dwayne Johnson v Roman Reigns sells more, and that's a big selling point. Dwayne isn't beating Roman though, we know this. But we do know that Cody beats Roman this time, unless they intend, WWE and TKO, to completely screw the fans and not finish the story, to give the Rhodes family a world champion, which would be nice, again, don't you think?